Wild orcas swim up to 100 miles a day. Orcas have very strong family bonds and social ties. In 1970, off the coast of Washington state, a large number of orcas were captured. The young orcas were brutally taken from their families. The only surviving orca from those captured has lived in a tiny tank at Miami Seaquarium, swimming in circles for almost 52 years. Please, set Toki free.
Bitte, lassen Sie Toki frei.
Let her feel the native cool water. Let her swim through the kelp beds. But most importantly, let her be with her family once more.
Hello, welcome to TokiTV. Happy Mother's Day. Hi, Alejandro. Today we have a special guest with us, Dr. Safiq. Before we get started, though, we want to open up in a good way with Reverend Tammy Lambert. If you could please start us off with prayer, please.
All right. So if you feel comfortable, just close your eyes and take a deep breath, knowing that the life is what we breathe, the light is what we breathe, that there is life flowing in our bodies, life flowing around everything that is. And in that breath of life, we are all connected to something sacred and divine. And I just bring our attention to that, knowing that within us is flowing all that is good, all that is kind. And so in this moment, in this oneness that has us all breathing the breath of life, in this moment, we know that this time on Toki TV is just filled with love and light and positive energy, that there is only goodness here, that there is only success here, that there is only a perfect outcome, that there is no such thing as any creature that is outside of the love of the divine. And so our hearts connected to that love reach out, reach out, reach out, knowing that it is perfect. And we generate the goodness, we generate the light. Only good will come to us. Only good comes from us. We give thanks, we give thanks, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. Ashe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Mother's Day. I'm going to add Lawrence here with us. Hi, Lawrence. Good morning.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening, wherever you are. Feel free to type in the comments as you always do. We love to see where you guys are watching from. So say hello in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from. Lawrence, where are you from? Where are you at?
I am in a very messy, empty loft in Miami. Finally, at the last bits of my move, and I have a mattress here. I have some laundry that I'm going to do later today, and a chair. So, my apologies for missing you guys the last few weeks. I've been there in spirit, and I'm really happy to join today. Super excited. So I see all these beautiful smiley faces here, and I know that there's a lot of people watching. So I'm here to listen and learn and contribute however I can, even if it's a few jokes to keep the morale up.
We appreciate that all the time. Thank you for being with us. Really appreciate it. Alejandro, you are
Of
also in
course, thank
Miami.
you.
How's it going over there, Alejandro?
Just what can I tell you? I'm praying for Lolita, I'm praying for Lolita, and today is a special day because it's a Mother's Day. So it's a sad day too, because Lolita can get closer her mom because she was captured in 1970. So, but I feel hope, I have a lot of hope that we will achieve this goal and Lolita finally will be with her mother soon, So I keep praying for her. I just keep telling everyone, encouraging everybody, to do the right thing. Keep sending letters, emails, everything with respect. So Lolita, we go back home. I can feel it deeply into my heart.
Thanks. Thank you, Alejandro. And I was flashing a picture there. You're talking about her mom. There's Ocean Sun right there. So just wanted to show that we are definitely honoring Ocean Sun today, knowing that we are all praying and trying and doing everything we can to bring her home to you. So special shout out to Ocean Sun today. There's also a new baby born within this last week to K-Pod. So I'm going to talk about that just real quick. I'm going to read this. Some very hopeful news from the Center for Whale Research. They're aware of a video posted by the YouTube channel, The Guides Forest, which I'm going to show you in just a second, showing a very young calf associated with K20. This calf would be the first viable baby born to the K-Pod since K44 in 2011, guys. Center for Whale Research plans to document the calf during the photographic surveys so they can assess its health, confirm the identity of its mother, and assign the alphanumeric designation. If confirmed, this will be K20, who also known as Spock, first surviving offspring in 18 years, you guys. Successful pregnancies and survival of newborns been extremely low in recent decades. The most compelling evidence tells us that their low survival is mostly due to the scarcity of Chinook salmon, which have made up about 80% of their specialized diet for thousands of years. There are now less than 10% of the historical numbers of Chinook in their habitat, and those fish are on average less than half the size that they once were. You're going to hear more about this from Dr. Safik as well, but we can help by applying our influence to restore salmon spawning and nurturing habitat, including Snake River Dam removal and shoreline and estuary restoration, as well as reducing Chinook catches from Alaska to California. Water quality and noise pollution are also factors in impairing reproductive health and successful foraging conditions. While we understand it may be months before the Center for Whale Research can confirm, we are sending out positive thoughts for a new member to the Southern resident community, and we hope this little one will be healthy and strong. So if you guys are okay with that, I'm going to show you that video that was taken. You have to bear with me. This is a share screen, so give me 1 second here. Here we go.
How cool is that? Incredible. Sierra Del Mar had some company today.
I don't know if you guys were able to catch that little tiny, oh, so cute, so little. I don't know if you did you see it, Alejandro? If you blink, you miss it. You got to watch it again. All right, guys, thank you. So good luck to that baby. Let's all like send our prayers and wishes for healthy. We are really lucky today. I am going to read this because I don't want to mess this up. To have Dr. Alexandria Safiq with us today. Dr. Safiq completed her doctorate in ecology and evolution at Rutgers University. Previously, she completed her Bachelor of Science degree in environmental science and astronomy at Union College. Her doctoral dissertation focused on incorporating human dimensions into ecosystem-based management. Dr. Safiq's current research focuses on the intersectionality of wildlife protection, spiritual value orientations, and environmental justice. Her work seeks to contribute to the dismantling of oppressive systems, redistribution of power, and facilitating equitable access to nature. Born and raised on the unceded territory of the Duwamish peoples, Dr. Safiq's worldview has been and continues to be informed by her connection to the land, waters, and non-human persons who call the Pacific Northwest home. Her nature-based spiritual practices permeates all aspects of her life, including her research, advocating and facilitating the self-actualization of human and non-human persons, while simultaneously honoring the self-sovereignty of all beings, is the nexus point from which Dr. Safiq conducts her research and activism. Dr. Safiq, thank you so much for being with us today. Go ahead and there you are. Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Annette. And hi, everybody. Hi, Alejandro. Hi, Lawrence. It's good to see everybody. Hi, everybody in the audience. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I'm going to give a fairly short presentation. It's a version of a presentation that I gave going on 2 weeks, I think. Time flies, ago at the Sk'ali'Chehl Sea Ecosystem Conference. It was held virtually this year, but it usually happens in person. It happens every year. And the focus of that conference is to honor the Indigenous voices that live along the Sk'ali'Chehl Sea region since time immemorial, and elevate these voices to share both their science, their stories, their traditional ecological knowledge, and it's a beautiful coming together of both scientists across the Sk'ali'Chehl Sea region to try to facilitate the healing and the good, healthy management of our beautiful ecosystem and where TokiTV's home is. So with that said, I will go ahead and jump into the presentation. Annette has graciously offered to help facilitate this. So I'm going to work in tandem here and cue when the slide is supposed to go. But the title of my talk is The Time for Reparations from Washington State Is Now. As Non-Human Persons, Orcas Deserve Justice. And as a little context, this talk was created to keep in mind the theme of the Sk'ali'Chehl Sea Ecosystem Conference this year, which was honoring our ancestors. And I know that many tribes and nations along the Sk'ali'Chehl Sea hold orca in their spiritual family. And I hope I'm not misspeaking, and I hope I invite conversation if I am. But I believe that orca are ancestors to these landscapes and seascapes. And we should do diligence in honoring them. And so with that, I will jump right in. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so for transparency, this was one of the most difficult talks that I've written in my early career, in part because of my own lived experiences, as well as my orientation to feel things very deeply. And so I want to bring some intentionality to this space and say that it is not my intention to trigger or to shock anyone. It is my intention, however, to speak openly, honestly, and candidly about the injustices that orca on the whole from the Salish Sea have experienced in the past, and propose a new way forward, grounded in justice, grounded in love, grounded in our ultimate truths, which is elevating each other's self-sovereignty. Next slide, please. And so it also feels important to me that I acknowledge the power of the present moment. Generally speaking, in Western science, time is seen as linear, moving forward from the past to the present. However, I and many indigenous cultures around the world experience time as spherical, as having depth and existing in an infinite number of directions. So within this paradigm, we can meet with and be in conversation with our ancestors while we remain grounded in the present moment. And for transparency, and just to share that my own ethnic lineage is Nigerian, Fijian, Northern Indian, Southern Indian, Japanese, Danish, and Norwegian, which is a lot to say in one breath. But within me lives an entire global history that is full of nuance and complexity. And within me, I hold the ancestral memories from peoples who were colonized and from people who were colonizers. And from that standpoint, I have the privilege and the honor to ask myself and my ancestors, where is there healing to be done? And what does that healing look like? And as individuals, we are responsible for our actions in the present moment. And although we may not have been the individuals who have made historical decisions in the past, we have inherited their legacy, and it is our task to ask ourselves and our communities what we would like to do with it. Next slide, please. And so I encourage us all to hold with gentle mindfulness our individual and collective generational inheritance. And as we do so, let us begin to feel our way through what generational inheritance means for orca. And just for very brief context, because I know I'm speaking to the choir here, in the 1960s, orcas were captured from the Salish Sea and sold to amusement parks around the country. By 1976, some 270 orcas were captured from the Salish Sea. At least 50 of those orcas were southern resident killer whales. And just for context, southern resident killer whales are the killer whales that live in and around the Puget Sound area, and they only eat salmon. So they are very distinct from their, I don't want to misspeak, I don't know if they're cousins, but they're other ecotype orca, which are the transient orcas that do migrate from Alaska all the way down the Salish Sea and back up. So when we're talking about resident orcas, that's who we're referring to. And pictured here is TokiTV, and she is the last living southern resident orca held in captivity. And in 1972, after some intensive work from activists like Alejandro, whom I hold in such reverence and love and gratitude, the US federal government passed the Marine Mammal Protection Act, putting an end to orca harvest. And however, though, the amusement parks were allowed to keep the orca that they already purchased, but they were not allowed to purchase anymore. And so we have that legacy following us today with TokiTV, and we have some great healing that's occurring, and I'm very hopeful that that healing continues. And so next slide, please. All right. And so I'm sure many of you may be wondering, how could this have happened? And the answer, deserves more time than I have today and is highly nuanced. But to scratch the surface, this was allowed to happen in part because of how people have historically related to wildlife. And so in conservation psychology, there's a framework called wildlife value orientations, or WVOs for short. In psychology, values contribute to both the worldviews of individuals and the societies that they live in. And from those worldviews, decisions and actions and policies and management are made. WVOs exist along a continuum, which is shown here. On one side of the continuum, we have mutualism, which speaks to the idea that humans, wildlife, and nature exists in an interconnected system where we are all valued equally. On the other side of the spectrum, we have domination, where humans are seen as more valuable and nature less so. And under the domination mentality and value system, nature and wildlife are seen as resources for human consumption, generally speaking. And in between the two value systems here, we have a whole nuance of sort of orientations that take on characteristics of mutualism and domination. And so that like in between space, we just call pluralistic. And so with that said, historically speaking, in America, American policy and regulation around natural resources has largely operated from more of a domination orientation. Next slide, please. And for more context, I think that it is pretty obvious in the culture, but for some specific examples, here's a painting by John Gast in 1972 called Manifest Destiny. And for those unfamiliar with the idea of manifest destiny, it was the philosophy that the American West was the last frontier and that colonizers had a God-sanctioned mission or right to conquer the West and to thrive. However, they decided that thriving would be defined for them. And this was done predominantly under a capitalistic paradigm. And one example of that would be if you pull out a dollar bill from your pocket and you look under the banner, you will see the phrase, "In God We Trust," clearly printed on our legal tender. And so this is heavily embedded in the systemic framework of America and has been for quite a long time. Next slide, please. Now, with that said, I believe there has been and continues to be a shift away from domination to mutualism. The environmental revolution and other movements like the Deep Green movement, which began around the mid-1960s and 1970s, it really started to pick up steam, began to, in the global cultural framework, shift towards more of a mutualistic standpoint, more from a standpoint of honoring our interconnectedness with nature and with wildlife and honoring the self-sovereignty and the sacredness really of all living beings. And much of that work, again, I just want to throw behind my gratitude for the activists and for many people's writers, intellectuals, and everyday people who have gone out to show support for the healing of the environment. And I would encourage all of us to continue to hold love in our hearts and continue to hold a vision of a more just future as we make this shift culturally and as a society towards a more mutualistic framework. Okay, next slide, please. And just for a further point of clarity, there have been activists for decades that have called for the acknowledgement and advancement of animal rights, while others have focused on granting animals non-human rights. And these two things are different, and in my opinion, they aren't quite equal. Animal rights acknowledges that animals deserve to be treated well under more of a domination orientation. For example, that would be like larger tank sizes and amusement parks, things like that. Whereas non-human rights advocates for acknowledging the self-sovereignty of animals as persons, and thereby granting them the same rights and privileges of legally defined persons. And so for the context of my talk, I am advocating for the latter, that orca be granted non-human personhood. Next slide, please. And so historically, many people have argued that we should not grant wildlife, nature, animals personhood because they're once believed to be fundamentally unequal to humans, often using the idea that animals don't feel emotions to kind of support that idea. But, you know, in the summer of 2018, which seems really not that long ago, in my visceral kind of memory, TokiTV lost her newborn calf and carried her calf throughout the Puget Sound for 17 days in a very obvious display of mourning. Her mourning was covered daily in the Pacific Northwest news and was picked up by national news outlets. Millions of people connected to, and perhaps for the first time, viscerally understood that orca and humans share fundamental emotions such as grief. Next slide, please. And so given the cultural shift away from domination values towards more mutualistic values, it is time to demand, in my opinion, that Washington State acknowledge the ethical, the moral, and ecological debt owed to orca. I propose that a good first step is for governing and managerial bodies of Washington State to engage in what social science terms frame bridging or frame aligning. And essentially this means explicitly identifying the values of several socio-political movements that overlap and begin to build a cohesive framework for how to enact, in this case, justice for orca. And I argue that this intersectional framework must draw from environmental ethics, from non-human rights, environmental justice, and animal rights, all of it centering on a civil rights framework. And to go into that all of these beautiful frameworks, all of these movements that have happened over time, all have beautiful, valuable things to contribute to the liberation and healing of orca. And I think if we can ground that in a civil rights framework, so in a way that honors the work that's been done in the United States for human peoples, that we would be really effective at being able to bring about healing for orca. Next slide, please. And so, as a first step, I propose that existing laws and regulations be updated to include language that affirms non-human personhood for orca. Language is very powerful. I believe language is in part formed by our own kind of psychosomatic landscape, but also as a reflection of how we value and relate to the world. And so if we can bring in language that honors personhood for orca, that would be really powerful and would really open up a lot, especially in political and legal arenas. I also want to call for proposing new laws and regulations that explicitly redefine orca as non-human persons. And next slide, please. Once this is done, or even concurrently, I would like to see the state of Washington to apply what's called habeas corpus to orca, which is a writ that has existed for centuries and is meant to protect anyone who is unjustly imprisoned. So in this case, that would be the resident orca taken from the Puget Sound and would certainly extend to TokiTV. I'm also calling for Washington State to support fiscally and structurally bringing home TokiTV to the Puget Sound, following the incredible work of the Lumi tribe. And I've linked, or at least cited here, sacredsea.org. I highly encourage all of you to take a look at that beautiful website and to share it with anybody that you think should be aware of this really powerful work that's being done. And lastly, I call on the state of Washington to explicitly address the inequity in our shared natural resources with orca. predominantly salmon, especially Chinook salmon, also known as king salmon. As non-human persons, orcas deserve the right to a sustainable and healthy life. And right now, unfortunately, they do not have this because there are not enough salmon to feed them. And this has been the case for decades. And this must change. And I want to honor that there are many beautiful souls that are working to do this work, both in agencies federally and state level. There are also individuals not associated with state and federal governments that have been working tirelessly. And so I'm calling for supporting them and also to pushing for sharing those natural resources with Orca more so than we have in the past, and really embodying that mutualism, that eco-Sophie, where we honor our shared responsibility to support one another. And one more slide, I believe. And so in closing, I just want to refocus on the message that we must embody a new relationship with Orca, one that honors all of us as mutual self-sovereign people. And I thank you all for your time and for your prayers and for your energies focused on Tokite. Please continue to do that. Please continue to send her love. Please continue to send her peaceful energies. Please continue to send all of those who are working to bringing her home the same love, the same peace, good energies to continue that hard work. And I will close there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Safiq. You weren't part of the beginning shows that we've had, but one of the big themes that we talk about is, like you said, there's a lot of people doing a lot of work in different areas, and we believe that is this puzzle that and you're part of that puzzle. And so thank you for being with us today. It's been a while, guys. We've been trying to get her on, and then but it happened, and it happened at the perfect time. I mean, you're giving this presentation today, and I'm going to shut up and let Alejandro and Lawrence talk too. But it's interesting because it is right. As many times as we've tried to get this together, and we finally got it together now. It's right in the middle of the Snake River journey that's occurring, which I'll talk about a little bit more, and give folks some dates and locations if they want to attend that. But it's all about the goal. It's a shared goal with what you just talked about. Lawrence? I didn't know if you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm processing. This is absolutely incredible work, necessary. Allow me to process a little bit, and then I'll have maybe some questions for now or for the future. In listening to that, and I was listening, of course. I didn't mean to have just my avatar there because I'm holding my phone in my empty little space here. No Is it true that India several years ago had designated cetaceans as persons? And what was the legalities of all of that? And how did that influence your work in any way? Is it something that you look at government to government policies? How is this situation similar, or how is it unique?
That's an excellent question. And I have to admit that I am totally ignorant of the work being done in India, but I do know that work has been done in New Zealand to give landscapes actually a non-human standing. I believe they granted a river, I'm forgetting the name of the river, personhood. And I wish my research focused more on comparative analysis between international governance agencies on how they brought about giving wildlife and landscapes non-human personhood status. But I was in a conversation with many brilliant people over the past 2 weeks, and I thought it was really interesting. I had this question of my own of when we give these beings the honor that they deserve of non-human personhood standing. What does that mean? You know, we aren't fluent in the language of rivers, or I would guess not many Western cultures are, but I think many indigenous cultures may very well be and are and have been. But I was wondering who gets to speak, you know, on behalf of these people, and I thought the answer of it being a collaborative mission to be in tune with these non-human persons and being able to be in psychic and emotional landscapes with them, such that we would work in synchronicity with and honoring that in our policies and regulations. And so I think that's an emerging field. Unfortunately, I'm not very schooled in it. I wish I could give you a better answer, but I know that there are many brilliant international and mental lawyers who are doing that work.
Your humility is a little too strong. You're on the leading edge of it, and this is the type of research and inquiry that science needs to take. It also needs to be further pursued. You're pioneering in this aspect, and it's so beautiful, and it's such an honor that we've met. And I know it's been a while. It's really great to see your presentation. I'm so grateful for it. It does set in my mind a lot of, I guess, other questions, but that curiosity that I always like to talk about. You know, we also look in the context of TokiTV, and she's designated here in the United States under the Department of Agriculture. She's livestock. She's also property. How is this from our historical aspect of, and I love how you brought this in, a very heady subject, a very charged subject, an emotional one of the crimes of the United States, manifest destiny, these things that are horrendous in our history, that we still in some ways psychologically hold on to, of the power struggle. And it's just, your work supersedes and it goes across all boards, and it just is beautiful. And I think that, you know, here I am as a storyteller, and I'm trying to think of, you know, boy, the general public really needs to know. And actually, Annette and I were having a conversation earlier today about, you know, obviously keeping everyone engaged, and a little knowledge is a dangerous thing in some ways, and we have to kind of trust the process. We have to understand where our frustrations come from. We also have to have, we have the desire and need for full transparency on all things, and it only allows that necessary conversation. So we have to have these things sort of, so where we can really face what the history is, we can really face and acknowledge and own up in many ways these historic elements that had planted the seed of people thinking the way that they think. I don't mean to take any more time, but it definitely sets my brain on fire, and it fills my heart in so many wonderful ways, because I know that you and others like you, and I guess all of us in some ways, are supporting each other, and to ask these questions, to do it from an academic side of things, where it gives us as close to a definitive path for us to take. And I really love that, because often we get in this, you know, I don't know, I don't want to parallel this with the whole pandemic thing, but you know, we just came out of this whole confusion. We're still confused. You know, what the hell's happened in the last couple of years? People are very, very polarized in so many ways. And I just had this conversation. I was honored yesterday to go to a private luncheon. And I'll just kind of say this briefly, but it also is reflecting of another individual who comes from the field of auto racing. Here in Miami, we have the big Formula One race going on this week. I'm not necessarily a big fan of it. And of course, car racing, the environment, they don't really go hand in hand. One, pun intended, fuels this whole disconnect. But in that industry, there's innovation. And what's happening now is there's innovation for alternative fuels. And so I was invited to this lunch yesterday. It was a collection. I'm not really sure why I was invited, you know, being a conservationist, I guess, here in Miami. But it was a collection of climate scientists, sea level experts, this F1 amazing man, Sebastian. I forget his last name, but he's been the winner of the race for the last 4 years, and he's very empowered to shift that industry, and he's starting to develop a alternative fuel F1 car, but he wants to learn how he can go through this path. I bring this up in the sense that here's yet another individual that curiosity has touched and says, I want to leave a better legacy. I want to do something for the future generations. I want to do something, as he said, for his children. He's in an industry that's been incredibly deleterious to, you know, feeding this whole need for petrol and oil and also materialism. You know, it's an elitist sport. He acknowledges all of that. So it's refreshing, surprising in some ways, but there are, as in listening with you, and there's so many others that are coming out to the forefront that are saying, hey, I'm curious, I want to learn something, I'm going to study something, I'm going to inquire about this so I can share it to other people. And to me, that is the beauty of all of it. When we have these, as I always say, crimes against nature or crimes against humanity, we can get so depressed about it, we can get frustrated, we don't have a lot of the information, so that, you know, often causes people to go down a different path or give up. And, you know, you're incredibly inspiring.
I think you just kind of like sparked for me anyway, like, okay, another show, we need to have more people who are doing the, like you said, you know, it's cutting edge stuff. It's leading in, you know, different industries. I'm going to have to kind of close this part of our conversation because we have another special guest who I see in the backstage getting a little antsy, but I absolutely. I mean, we could sit on and maybe next week, maybe the following week, we can all just sit here and have these conversations, because I think, you know, today we can't take questions from the audience just due to time, but, you know, we could have this kind of conversation that we're having. And I mean, I could sit and talk to Lawrence and you, Alex, for hours and just, you know, just one-on-one. You know, I lose track of time. I look at the time like, Lawrence, I gotta go. I gotta get ready. But it's fascinating.
Sorry, I'm long-winded.
No, I just think that it's all fascinating stuff, and the people watching are of the same mind. You can tell just by the comments. So we will definitely delve into this a little bit more. Alex, if you're willing to come back, we would love to have you come back for some of these conversations.
I would love to. It'd be
awesome.
Yes, please.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, speaking of different puzzles and leading industries, we have someone I want to introduce here. So Addison, let me tell you about Addison first. I'm going to show you a picture of Addison before we bring her on. There is Addison and her friend. I'm going to give you a close-up of that sign. Lolita's Lemonade Fundraiser. Lolita's story. Lolita's a killer whale that was taken from her family and placed in a tiny habitat in Miami. Our goal is to raise enough money to get her home. I would like to introduce to you guys the Wine Coops. Here we go. Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Going great, going well.
Awesome. So we have the Wine Coops family from Annapolis, Maryland, Daniel, Andrea, Addison, who's there, and Olivia, who's laying down there. And there's a 2-year-old husky named Ash running around there somewhere. How's it going?
Going great. We're very happy you had us on tonight. Thank you.
That's really, really awesome. And Mother's Day, so how better to honor than to show how cool your kid is. Addison, I have questions for you. And then if you don't want to answer them, you just tell me, okay? Okay, ready? All right, so how did you get this idea to do this lemonade stand for Toki?
So, my stepmom, Andrea, she told us about it, and we had an idea that we should raise money to just do a little something to make an impact. And yeah.
You did? And you did. Did you have fun, first of all? Did you have fun doing it?
We had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, who all helped you with it?
So we had help from a lot of people. We had help from my parents, my friend Keiki, her brothers, her little brothers, and some neighbors as well.
Who made the lemonade, you or Andrea?
Sure, yeah.
That's awesome. Do you think you're going to do another one anytime soon?
I think it would be really cool if we did another one. And I think if we did another one, we could set our goal higher for the money that we're going to raise.
Okay. And we're going to tell people about that here in just a little bit. We're going to let them sit in suspense to see how much money you raise, though. We're going to let them sit in suspense for a little bit. Tell me why this is important to you.
This is important to us because we think that no self-aware animal should be in captivity.
That's awesome. And wow, how old are you, Addison?
I'm 11.
Wow. Right on, guys. This is our future. And so I wanted to have you on here because I think that people could do this all over the place, right? The weather's getting warmer everywhere. Do you think people should do it?
I think everyone should do it.
It kind of sounds like a challenge. Are you challenging people? Are you challenging people to do a lemonade stand or a bake sale or something? Awesome. I challenge them too. I think that would be awesome. We're going to have a garage sale, which I've been dreading, but you inspired me to be like, you know what? There's stuff I've been putting off. I'm going to do a garage sale, and all the proceeds I'm going to send to sacredseed.org, just like you did. What advice do you have for other families?
So I think other families should spread the word and just try to do something that impacts Lolita's life and the people who care about her.
It'll be awesome when we get her to go back home. She could be near her mom. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need to make that happen. Before we tell everyone how much you made, I want to see if Lawrence or Alejandro or Dr. Safiq have any questions for you. Anybody?
Just, I want to congratulate. You're amazing. And I hope many kids like you can do the same, because we feel deeply into our hearts that Lolita will go back home. You are the new generation. You are an amazing family. Thank you so much for doing this for Toki. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alejandro.
I'd like to echo that and just to commend you on strength of spirit, and you're a very well-spoken, very articulate young woman, and you have my support certainly, and I know you'll have the support of the thousands of people watching this, and we encourage you to keep doing this beautiful work, whatever you're inspired to do, because following your heart is always the right thing. And I'm honored to live in a world with a generation of young people, and I hope that we can all work together to give you the future that you deserve and that TokiTV deserves. Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Lawrence, I know you got
All
something.
right, is my mic
There
on?
he goes.
Wow. Such a pleasure to meet all of you. And I know there's a dog somewhere out of the frame. So this whole family, you guys are absolutely inspiring. And I mean, I do have questions, but I just want to thank you. I want to echo everyone's sentiment and thank you for taking, to be courageous, to take the lead on something. And I don't know if you guys have been listening in over the last couple of months. I've sort of been out of the last couple of meetings, but I always talk about curiosity. I always talk about trying to correct these wrongs and finding solutions. And in the adult world, we see so many problems and we lose sense of what was really kind of given to us at the beginning when we were younger. We get a little overwhelmed on things. And you've come up with a solution that is brilliant. It's pretty easy. It's getting to be summertime. People are thirsty. I'm thirsty. I'd like to have some of this lemonade. I don't know if you want to ship some down to Florida, or we can start one around here. Alejandro and I can probably do that. But you really do embody this aspect that we adults have missed. And you're inspiring us to do something that's a solution. And I thank you for that. It's incredible. I guess some of my questions are, how did you first make that shift? What did it feel inside of you when you felt you needed to do something? Was that a long process, or did you just come up with, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this?
Tough question. That's okay.
It's a tough question, but I'm asking for selfish reasons because I want to know what your secret sauce is so I can be further motivated myself.
So I know Lawrence, and I'm going to let Addie, of course, answer most of the question, but I know that this is something that we've kept an eye on for quite some time. What's going on at the Seaquarium with Lolita? We've obviously watched a ton of documentaries on different orcas. Blackfish comes to mind, and some different things. And it's been something that's been very dear to us for a long time. And so, we talk about that openly as a family. And, Addison hears those conversations and joins in those conversations, and kind of one day decided, I want to do this. I want to do something to help this. The noise about her actually getting released and freed is starting to rise, and it's getting louder and louder. And as a part of that, we're getting excited, even way out here in Annapolis, Maryland, we're getting excited about this. And this is something that really is a possibility. And Addison hears that when we're talking, and wanted to do something and wanted to make a difference. And, she's done bracelets in the past. This time it was lemonade. So, we'll see what the next big idea is. But, like you said, we're coming up on summertime. So, more lemonade probably the next time around. But yeah, we're excited about it. So sorry, did I talk too much for you?
I think that's awesome.
Well, I want to interject this. If I could, I would just like to interject this. And listen, guys, your whole family, the fact of what you just said is that you have this family discussion. And we often forget that just because you're younger or you're a quote unquote kid doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to join in on an adult conversation about doing something to correct a problem.
Yep.
And if more families were like you all, that respected the kids and the kids respected the parents, and you had this kind of family mission, boy, can you imagine? It starts with one family, it goes to another, it's a neighborhood, it's community, it's the world. I mean, you really are a showcase for I don't have the blessings of being a father as of yet. I do have a lot of gray hair, so I don't know if I'm outside my limitations yet or not. But I admire deeply families and young families. And I did grow up in that household as well, where there were discussions and family discussions about bigger problems. I do remember going to welcome, I grew up in Arkansas, and it was at the end, I'm 53, so I don't know, I was very young. I was like 6 or 7, but my family brought all of us to welcome the refugees from Vietnam that came in to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. And we wrote signs. I remember reading about it in National Geographic to the best of my ability. And we all as a family said, you know what, let's welcome them. You know, these are people that are having to leave their homes. These are people that you know, are just like us. And, you know, to kind of maybe piggyback a little bit on Alex's beautiful presentation, you know, this is about all living beings. You know, all walks, all people, all peoples of the land, peoples of the sea, peoples of the air. And it is incredibly encouraging to me. And so again, I just want to thank you guys individually, but also collectively as a family. And if you want to adopt a 53-year-old man, I'm well educated, I'm house trained. You know, I can do some chores around the house, Dad. You know, I can help you out with that. But you guys are a beautiful, special family. And Addison, thank you so much for taking the lead on that, and for you all to be part of the solution. It's encouraging, and it's very inspiring for me. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Addison, I have a question, because I think this is super important. You did raise a lot of money, which we'll talk about in a minute again, but your sign, did people know, or did you have an opportunity to tell a lot of people the story?
So once people came by and donated money and got lemonade, I gave out flyers with Lolita's story on it.
Right on.
Just like a quick tiny story about her, so they can get a good idea of how she is and how she's living right now. And also we had the chalkboard and stuff, and I think it made people realize how special this is, how important this is, and that's why we raised like a lot of money.
And that, you couldn't believe it. People were pulling in off the main road on their bicycles and their cars and stopping by, and you know, they would sit around and chit chat for 15 or 20 minutes, and some of them had lemonade, right, and some of them just stopped by just to donate. Weren't thirsty or didn't want the lemonade, just wanted to donate, just wanted to be a part of the movement. So very cool.
One time we had a recent lemonade stand, and there was this one person who kept coming by, and they kept donating money. One time she came over by herself when she was like going home from something, and then she brought one of her kids, and then she brought another one of her kids, and then she just kept coming and coming and coming.
Yeah.
You're changing the world, Addison.
Repeat customers.
Raising money is good, you know, because, you know, yes, we want this money to go to sacredseed.org. Raising money is awesome, but you're raising awareness and sharing this, and those people are now going to go tell other people, and then those people are going to go tell other people. So you are making a profound impact, and you are also, as you heard me talking about earlier, you are also part of this puzzle of bringing her home. So Addison, thank you for being part of our team, for being such an amazing kid. When I did lemonade stands, like, you know, it was like $10, $15. What do you guys think she made? Alejandro, you think she made like 50? Alejandro might know. He might have seen this already.
No, I think he's making more money. I will do empanadas, you know. For my, I will do empanadas. We're gonna do a competition.
When I saw what they raised, you guys, let me show you here what they donated.
So much.
They donated $190.
Wow.
to
Wow, amazing.
Sacred Lands Conservancy, which is
Thank
the
you so much.
GoFundMe. If you guys have not seen the GoFundMe, go to sacredsea.org. It is on the front page there. That is Sacred Lands Conservancy. As you've all have met Raynell and Ellie before on the show, and they are that is all donations for that go to her building her Lummi Talk, which is her home. I also we're going to wrap up here because we're getting to an hour, but I also want to point out, and I can say this because Howard is not on with us today, but Howard has been on here giving some really in-depth science. I mean, you want to talk about the science and the historical data, and he's been giving a wealth of information. So for those of you watching, if you would like to go to orcanetwork.org, they take donations there as well to help all the wonderful things that they do. But yes, sacredsea.org. I'm going to put this up real quick. Again, for her home, sacredsea.org, the GoFundMe there. And then there's a wealth of information on orcanetwork.org, and feel free to donate to them as well. We're going to close our show. Any last words of wisdom from Addison?
Thank you.
You're so awesome.
Drink more lemonade. Right.
Yeah, drink more lemonade. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. Real quick, I'm just going to remind people that there's still a few stops on the Snake River to Sailor Sea Spirit of the Waters Totem Pole Journey. I'm going to put those up here real quick. So May 9th, Chinook Nation, 10th, Portland, May 11th, Silo Falls. That's a few different events there. This is all on our page, our Orca Network Lolita page as well. But please stop by and see. Again, everybody pitching in to make a difference. We love all of you. I hope I didn't leave out too many announcements, and I hope we got the information. But did I show the picture of Tahlequah with her baby yet? Did I do that while we were live? Did I already do that? Okay. I know I showed it earlier before we went live. I'm not sure if I did that, but here is another baby. This was in 2020, but everyone knows the plight of Tahlequah with her calf, and so this is her baby that's still living, and J35. So there's hope out there. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Love you. Thank you so much for being with us. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you guys so much. Happy Mother's Day. Addison, thank you.